All right. So we've seen two different types of units of measurements, systems of measurements. So we have the customary system, also called the U.S. customary system, also called the English customary system, also called the why do you all do that system. Um, and then we have the metric system, also known as the SI units or SI system, systems of international, because everyone in the world uses it, except for the United States. Um, so, what about if we need to do things between companies that say I'm doing something in America, but the home office is in Britain, or in Britain they hire someone in America and they have to do all their planning and everything like that. Like I want this to be this big. Person in America that's doing the planning needs to do all the conversions, right? Oh, they can just use Google. It does it for them. Yeah, but let's just say they didn't have Google to do that for them or another calculator. They still need to understand what's going on, right, behind the scenes with this stuff because they may need to get to very specific units or very significant figures within their conversions, and Google won't do that for you. So, what do you do now? Well, you're going to have to know some. The important one and the one that most people commonly remember is that 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. It actually does equal 2.54 centimeters. That's like the only one of them that actually is just straight up equal to it. So it's kind of cool. And that's the reason why I usually show that because it's a good starting base for it. Now, if you know that, you'll be able to handle any other conversions from customary system to metric system when looking at lengths, distance, linear measurements, when looking at area, because all you have to do is square these, and when looking at volume, because all you have to do is cube these. Okay. Now, the other one that I gave you all is that 1 gallon is approximately, equal approximately 3.785 liters, because that's just about on every gallon of milk you ever bought or water. You see that number anyway, so it's something that you see commonly, so it'll be probably easier for you to remember. So this will be useful when going between capacities. Now, when converting from mass to weight, they're not the same. But because the way we find weight is based on a mass times an acceleration due to gravity, so it's a force, we can solve for those if we needed to. Now, I'll leave that to your physics class if you take one, or to your structure class, whatever other class you're going to take. You can find different conversions that people put out there that most people don't realize is taking into account that you're going to be dividing another factor that you just don't realize. But that's not the point, and I'm not here to argue that mass is not the same as weight. So let's convert with these guys here, just so that you get practice with it, shall we? All right. And just to make things a little fun, we'll start off with capacity, because most of the time we usually start off looking at linear things. We'll start off with capacity, though. Let's say I want to know about how many milliliters are in a cup. That's a good thing to wonder, especially when you get those bottles of waters that have a certain amount of milliliters on it, and you see like 16.9 fluid ounces and things like that. It's like, I want to see if these are actually right and see what that means, blah, blah, blah. So let's do that. Or let's say you have to go to another country, but you still want to make sure you have your 16 cups of water a day. Good way to trick that out is to make sure you know how many liters that is, or milliliters. Okay, so let's give that a shot. We want to know how many milliliters are in a cup. So how many milliliters are in 1 cup? Okay, cool. Well, first of all, we need 1 cup. Do we have 1 cup? No, we have gallons. Do we know anything about cups and gallons? Maybe not. Let's see how far we can get, shall we? So we're going to start off with 1 cup. I'm going to put C just so we can save space. We're going to start off with 1 cup, or 1C. And to get from cups to gallons, we need to get from cups to pints, pints to quarts, quarts to gallons. That's the order we want to go. So I have 1C for cups. I'm going to go from cups to pints. I'm going to go from pints to quarts. Then I'm going to go from quarts to gallons. Okay, it's pretty simple. Once we have gallons, all we need to do then is get to liters from there because we have a conversion factor. So from gallons, we can get to liters. And then from liters, the end result we want is milliliters. And then we'll be done. So that's mapping it out before we put the numbers in. It's actually a really good tool because this way you already see, hey, those are going to cancel, those are going to cancel, those will cancel, those will cancel, those will cancel. My answer will be in milliliters. It's a great way to start things off before you put the numbers in so you can make sure that mathematically you're already set for success. All right, let's put in our numbers now. How many cups are in a pint? Well, if you have to go back to look over your capacity notes, that's fine. But there are 2 cups in 1 pint. Okay? Well, how many pints are there in a quart? There are 2 pints in 1 quart. Well, how many quarts are there in a gallon? Quart sounds like quarter. Good. There are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. Awesome. Now, how many gallons are in how many liters are in a gallon? Or gallons and liters, we know that. Well, a conversion factor says that 1 gallon equals approximately 3.785 liters. This is an approximation. We don't know what it actually is, so it might be a good opportunity to use significant figures, and just so we can practice that. So, and this is what we'll try to get significant to. Lastly, how many milliliters are in a liter? Well, for 1 liter, milli is 1,000, so that would be 1,000 milliliters in 1 whole liter. Good. All right. We have a lot of mathematics on the board, and let's get started. Well, if I do 3.785 times 1,000, I'll get 3,785. And if I take 3,785 and I divide it by 2, divide it by 2, divide it by 4, divide it by 1, divide it by 1, what I will end up with will be our 3,785 divided by 16. So that's what we get. Approximately 1 cup is equal to that many milliliters. And if we were to actually simplify that, we will end up with 236.5625 milliliters, or because we have 4 significant figures here, 236.6 milliliters. That's how many milliliters you would need per cup. So you have to multiply that times 16 so you can figure out how many milliliters you would need to drink in a day. Okay? Well, that wasn't too bad, right? No, because we started out by mapping out exactly where we need it to go. And if you do that, it will make this a lot easier to do, because all you have to do is put the numbers in and you know to multiply across and divide by each of these. Okay? So that's what the capacity one. Let's now look at the most common one that's used, because usually people are doing this when they're looking at measurements of length. And to make things a little bit more fun, I feel like you're looking at me through the camera saying, please don't. Just leave it how it is. Please. Please. Okay. I'll leave it how it is. Fine. Let's figure out how many kilometers are in a mile. No? Too much? Okay. How about feet in a meter? Meter in a foot? One of those? Is that cool? Yeah? Okay, let's do that. Let's do that then. All right. So let's figure out how many meters, or let's see how many feet are in a meter. How many feet are in 1 meter? Okay. Well, we know we have 1 meter. And the only thing we have for a conversion factor is centimeters. So we need to get the centimeters. So we have our meter, we have our centimeter. Okay, once we're in centimeters, we can go to inches because of our conversion factor. All right, simple enough. And then once we're in inches, we know we can get the feet. And all of our units will go away perfectly and we'll be left with feet in our answer. So we've mapped this out, right? Now let's plug in our numbers. So how many centimeters are there in 1 meter? Well, there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. Okay, good. How many centimeters are there in 1 inch? Well, it's written up there for our conversion factors. We got 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. Nice. Now, how many inches in a foot? So we have 12 inches in 1 foot. All right, so everything is squared away for us to now solve for this. And so we get 1 times 100 times 1 times 1, and we end up with 100 divided by divided by 1, then divided by 2.54, then divided by 12. Okay. If we were to do this, we would get approximately 3.28, and then it would be a 0 after that, feet. Well, the significance that we have from the conversion factor is 3, and it's exactly 3. So we could leave this then as 3.28 feet is the approximate number of feet in a meter. And you may have growing up been told that a meter stick is about 3 feet. Well, it is. 3 feet is a yard, so a meter stick is a little bit more than a yard. That's kind of cool to know. Okay, I kept it simple for you. Can I just do one? It's a little complicated. One. I won't make it too complicated, I promise. You will? You let me do that? Okay, cool. All right, awesome. So this way you can just see what happens when you have to square things. All right. Well, let's say we want to know how many cubic. Okay, we'll do square. How many square meters there are in 1 square yard? See, it's not too bad, right? Yeah. Okay, so how many meters are in 1 square yard? Well, I'm going to start off with my square yard. I have 1 square yard. The only thing I can do to convert between metric and customary is inches and centimeters. So what I need to understand is how to get from yards to inches to start things off. And not just inches, square inches. So in order to do that, I need to get rid of yards, and then I can go from yards to feet. Well, how many feet are in a yard? There are 3 feet in a yard. However, we're talking about square yards, so this needs to be square feet. So that means our conversion factors need to also be squared. Okay. Now that we're in square feet, we can go to square inches. And how many inches are there in a foot? There are 12, that's correct. So we will have to square that conversion factor. Okay, now that we have that, we can go from inches to centimeters. And we know that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. Well, because we're talking about square inches and square centimeters, we need to square that conversion factor. So we'll have 2.54 squared. Now lastly, and I'll put it down here just to save space. After we get our answer, we will need to go from centimeters squared to meters squared. Well, centimeters is down here. Meters will be up here. How many centimeters are in a meter? We just did this. There are 100 for every one, so there will be 100 squared in the denominator, 1 squared in the numerator. So just to check our mapping, yards cancels with yards, feet squared cancels with square feet, square inches cancels with square inches, square centimeters cancels with square centimeters. We're left with square meters. And so this would be approximately, well, let's find out. If I take 1 times 3 squared, that's 9. And then 9 times 12 squared. And then we multiply that times 2.54 squared. And we multiply that times 1 squared. And then we would divide that number by 1 squared, divided by 1 squared, divided by 1 squared, divided by 100 squared. And we end up with exactly, actually, because this number was exact, we end up with 0.83612736 square meters. So almost a whole square meter is equal to 1 square yard. Now, if we needed to, because we have an exact value here, we can do significant figures. We would have 0.836 approximately. That would be square meters. All right, that's how you convert between customary and metric units. It's still the same dimensional analysis, it's still the same proportions, it's still the same thing when it comes to conversions. You just have to understand what the conversion factor is. What's the constant there? Once you know that, you can map things out so that you can get to your answer and then substitute in the correct conversion factors. If you're looking at area, make sure you square your conversion factors. If you're looking at volume, make sure you cube your conversion factors. Otherwise, leave them alone. Have fun. Make sure you remember that 1 inch is exactly 2.54 centimeters, and that 1 gallon is approximately 3.785 liters. You'll probably see that all the time when it comes to shopping in the store and buying things by the gallon. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you soon.